In a world where car prices have simply just ballooned out of proportion, especially for exotic sports cars, in this video I've put together a list of cool exotic sports cars that you can purchase for under $40,000. And honestly, you won't believe what I found. My name is John with Blackbird Productions, and on this channel I normally create car reviews every month. I'm still working on that car review and it's actually coming late, but my next car review is coming out very soon and I can't wait to share it. I also create videos like these every week. So if you enjoy cars as much as I do, definitely consider subscribing. And also don't forget to leave a like on this video. I definitely would appreciate it. So two quick things before we get into the list. First thing is, like I said, every car on this list is under $40,000. And they're also used exotic sports cars that are under $40,000. I also try to keep the mileage down to less than 40,000. So just think $40,000 and less than 40,000 miles. With the exception of our first car that we'll be talking about today. It's also the cheapest car, and that car is the TVR Chimaera. And my American viewers are probably wondering what the heck is this thing? And I was definitely with you when I first found out about this car. I actually found out about this car through Cars and Bids, and they've actually sold a couple recently. But if you don't know, this is a British sports car, and it wasn't actually made here in the United States. It is an imported car. However, a lot of examples have already been imported here into the United States. Just because this specific car meets those requirements. I want to say it's like 25 or 35 years or something like that until a car can be imported into the United States and registered legally. And this is one of those cars. And also, while doing some research on this car, I found out that there was maybe about roughly a handful that sold last year in the United States. And they all seem to sell around the same price. Well under $40,000. And a lot of people, especially the British viewers, because like I said, I've done some research on this car and I've seen some videos and I've seen people compare it to the Miata and call it like the British Miata. But honestly, I think these cars are just like a world apart, just because the pure fact is this car actually has a V8. So let's actually talk about that. So the TVR Chimaera has a Range Rover V8 that's supposed to be very reliable. I'm not as well versed with Range Rovers as I should be, but based on my research, this car is pretty reliable, and it's supposedly a bulletproof Range Rover engine that's been used for quite some time, just among other British cars. But anyway, with this car, you're getting a 5-speed manual transmission and some pretty decent power for a car this old. There are a number of, let's just say, models. I wouldn't necessarily call them trims, but there are different models with different engine displacements, but it's all based on the same tried and true Range Rover V8. And instead of just talking about the various specs, just because it's kind of up and down, I'll just provide a table that actually shows all of the specs through each individual model. So that way you could just quickly pause the video and just research the one that you're interested in. In terms of styling, I feel like you're getting a lot here. And personally, I think this is one of the most gorgeous cars that I have ever seen, at least pictures of. I've never seen one in person before, at least not yet. Maybe that might change in the future. But honestly, I think this is the most gorgeous car that anyone can own. And it comes from a community that's super, super healthy when it comes to aftermarket parts and also support, which is something that you'll need when you're owning this car in the US, just because obviously there's no TVR dealers or anything like that. In terms of styling, it's a very, very unique car. It comes in a lot of different colors, but specifically, I really like this red color. Another thing I like is the interior styling of this car. It comes in like a two-tone color, sometimes, not all of them come that way, but it definitely is interesting. I like the shapes of the materials that they use and the very, very minimalist interior, which I feel like this car actually predates like just the minimalist movement. So that's interesting. The other cool thing is there's actually a knob in the very middle next to the shifter, and it actually controls how you open the doors, which I have never seen that before in any other car. It's very, very quirky, and I think it's cool. The other thing I wanted to just quickly point out is the colors. I think this car comes in very, very nice colors, besides black, because every car is black. But specifically, the two colors that I like are this red that I found on classics.com and this green, which is sort of like a classic homage to just British racing and, you know, how green is sort of like their color when it comes to just showing off cars and racing and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure the color green has has some sort of racing heritage just among British cars in general. So that's pretty cool to see. But the green definitely looks very classy, while the red looks equally classy, and it also looks more aggressive. Overall, I think it's a really fun car, and a lot of Americans like me, I actually didn't know about this car, and I didn't even know this car existed until people started importing it into the United States. So honestly, I think this is a gem. And if you can find one, there currently aren't any listed right now, at least from what I'm seeing on classics.com. But usually when one is listed, it does take a little while for it to sell, just because, again, not many people know about this car. And I think it presents a very, very unique opportunity for someone that is looking for an affordable exotic that doesn't necessarily break the bank. Next car is the Porsche Boxster S, specifically the 987 generation. And I think it's the 987.1. So that is 04 to roughly 2012. And I just happen to know quite a bit about this car because it's actually one that I've owned before. It also happens to make some pretty modest power as well. And the Porsche Boxster S, you're getting roughly 295 horses and 251 pound-feet of torque from a very reliable 3.4 liter flat six. It also comes with your choice of a 6-speed manual, which is the one I had and I would recommend personally. And it also comes with an automatic, of course. Pair it with an aftermarket exhaust and I guarantee you, you'll love this car even more. And when I owned my Boxster S, that was actually the first thing I did. And to describe the sound, I obviously don't have any clips of it just because this was way before I was doing YouTube. But to describe the sound, it literally sounds like a race car. And it has like a combustion chamber sound to it. Like it almost sounds like a chamber orchestra. If you've ever been to or heard of like an orchestra like that before, it's very like, it's very surreal when you hear it for the first time. And I'm not quite sure if it's because the engine is literally in the back of you or the fact that it was just an aftermarket exhaust thing. But anyway, just like the TVR, this has aftermarket support 4 days. And when you own this car, you're officially part of the Porsche community, which I feel like I don't really have to say how great that community is, but there's nice people and there's Porsche specific events hosted throughout the United States and other regions, of course. The Boxster S is also built very, very well, and it's super reliable. One of the things that Porsche is known for. The Boxster is also practical as well. It has a front trunk and a rear trunk that's actually usable. Now, I wouldn't take it on a road trip per se, but it is very good for just grocery hauling and stuff like that. Not to mention, you could also perform a lot of the routine maintenance yourself. I know when I owned mine, I actually replaced a lot of different belts. I've done my own oil changes, and I've also changed out brake pads on the car as well. There's also plenty of guides online on how to do certain things when it comes to just maintaining the car. So honestly, I feel like anyone that's willing to work on their own car won't have any issue working on this one. Alternatively, Porsche is always available when it comes to maintaining the service interval on these cars. So if you don't want to get your hands dirty, you could always take it to Porsche, but just be warned, you'll be paying a pretty penny for just routine maintenance stuff. The next car on this list is the Jaguar F-Type, specifically the F-Type S. And while I would prefer to add the V8 variant of this car on the list, it actually is over $40,000 on the used market currently. That's the more desirable one, and quite personally, it sounds better than what I'm about to talk about, which is the V6 variant. But you could still have fun in the V6 as well. The V6 trim makes 376 horsepower and 339 pound-feet of torque. It is limited by an 8-speed automatic transmission, but I'll say it's pretty responsive. And I say limited just because I feel like this car would slay if it had a manual. But alas, we're stuck with the automatic for this one. It comes in both a hard top and a soft top configuration. And personally, I would prefer the soft top just because that one is more fun to drive. Hard top, however, I feel like looks better from the rear just because the body lines are slightly different just to accommodate the soft top or the lack thereof of a soft top. In terms of reliability, I think this car is pretty reliable, but honestly, I would just do your own research with any British car, including the TVR, just because a lot of British cars have those classic British quirks, and those quirks could just be anything from just rotting seals, malfunctioning wipers, stuff like that, or even electronic gremlins. So definitely do your research before purchasing one of these. The next one is a little bit of a palate cleanser, and it's a very odd one to add on this list. But nonetheless, I still think this is a very unique car, and you just don't see that many of them on the road. And I'm gonna talk about why that might be. But the next car is the Karma Revero. And I remembered when this car first came out with Fisker, and it was plagued with all kinds of software and hardware issues, and customers just weren't very happy about this car. Fast forward to now, most of the issues have been addressed, but honestly, I just don't know what the future might hold for this car, or even the brand surrounding the car. Because honestly, you don't have to look far to see what's going on with Fisker right now. And the fact that the Karma brand is closely tied to Fisker, just in terms of the car and the technology, because I know Karma is kind of their own company now, but the fact of the matter is that this specific car, the Karma Revero, is still based on that Fisker Karma, which is, you could say, the outgoing model for this car before the company Karma revived it. But nonetheless, this car has a very healthy community behind it that can also help you with troubleshooting issues or just getting aftermarket parts. In terms of power, the Karma Revero makes 403 horses and 981 pound-feet of torque, which is truly insane. And I'll give you some more detail around that as well. In terms of the powertrain, it's a 4-cylinder turbocharged engine paired with 2 electric motors, because this car is actually a hybrid. And if you don't know, hybrids, electric hybrids, benefit a ton from just torque. So this car is very torquey, and I can only imagine how touchy that accelerator is. Overall, I think this is a car that's very unique. Honestly, the styling isn't for me, but I do like some of the colors that this car come in, and the interior is interesting as well. But just like any car, especially this car, I would do a lot of research before committing to purchase one. The next car on our list is the Maserati GranTurismo Sport. These were made from 2012 to 2019, and it shares a lot of DNA with Ferrari, which for better or for worse, that might actually turn some people off just because Ferraris are pretty expensive to maintain. But some people actually enjoy the way a Ferrari sounds, for example, and they also like just the brand recognition in general. And just like Ferraris, this Maserati isn't unreliable per se, but it is very expensive to maintain if something does go wrong. The other thing is that this car, just like a Ferrari, needs specialized care, and you just can't take it to any old shop. So if you're okay with that, you could actually purchase this car under $40,000, and there's plenty of examples available. In terms of power, this is actually the fastest car on the list, not the torquiest, but technically the fastest by horsepower. It makes 454 horses and 384 pound-feet of torque from a Maserati/Ferrari derived 4.7 liter V8. It comes with a ZF 6-speed automatic gearbox with an optional 6-speed automatic manual transaxle. And this V8 sounds very, very cool. So that is the video. If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't subscribed or left a like yet on this video, definitely consider doing that. If you have an affordable exotic car in mind that I didn't actually include in this video, definitely let me know by leaving a comment below. I'd love to know what you found. This has been John with Blackbird Productions, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.